The state of Missouri executed 55-year-old Marcellus Williams on Tuesday over objections from the local prosecutor. Williams was convicted for the 1998 killing of Felicia Gayle. Earlier this year, the St. Louis County prosecutor filed a motion to overturn Williams's conviction, citing a lack of evidence in the original case, ineffective counsel, and racial discrimination in jury selection. Gayle's family even made calls to spare his life.
Male DNA was recovered from the handle of the murder weapon. The profile was tested. It did not belong to Marcellus Williams. That DNA profile has never been matched to any known individual. On September 24, 2024, the state of Missouri executed him anyway. Williams was 55 years old. He had spent 23 years on Missouri's death row. He had been within hours of execution twice before, in 2015 and in 2017, and survived both times on last-minute stays. The victim's family did not want him put to death. The county prosecutor who inherited the case filed a formal motion to overturn the conviction. A deal was negotiated, signed by both sides, and agreed to by the victim's family. The Missouri Supreme Court blocked it. Over the next few minutes, you will hear the testimony of two paid informants who could not keep their own stories straight. The federal ruling that said Williams' jury never heard the evidence it needed to decide his sentence. The admission in open court by the original trial prosecutor that he had struck a black juror because of his race. And the moment the most important piece of evidence in the case was destroyed by the prosecutor's own office. Stay with me, because the legal sequence in this case is the part that most people who covered it never laid out in full. Once you see every step in order, you will understand exactly how Marcellus Williams ended up on that gurney. Felicia Gayle was 42 years old on August 11, 1998. She held a master's degree in social work. She had previously worked as a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Her husband was Dr. Daniel Pickus, a physician. That evening, she was alone inside their home in the St. Louis County suburb of University City, Missouri. Dr. Pickus was not home. Someone entered the residence. Felicia Gayle was stabbed 43 times with a large butcher knife. The knife was left embedded in her neck. Her purse was taken. Dr. Pickus's laptop computer was taken. Dr. Pickus returned home and found her. Investigators processed the scene. Bloody fingerprints were documented on a wall inside the home. Hair was recovered from Gayle's hands. The butcher knife was submitted to a Missouri crime laboratory for forensic analysis. The case went cold. Dr. Pickus posted a $10,000 reward for information leading to the killer's arrest. The case had been unsolved for nearly a year. In June 1999, a man named Henry Cole was released from jail. Cole had a prior criminal record and a documented history of mental illness. He went to University City Police and told them that a former cellmate, Marcellus Williams, had confessed to the murder while they were both in custody. Cole refused to participate as a witness until he was paid $5,000 by prosecutors. His account contained details already published in newspaper coverage of the case. Cole directed police to a second witness, Laura Asaro, Williams' former girlfriend. Asaro had a prior criminal record, outstanding warrants, and a documented history of working as a police informant. Police picked her up on her outstanding warrants. She agreed to testify. Her testimony would earn her a portion of the $10,000 reward and the dismissal of charges against her. Asaro had previously testified against Williams in a separate, unrelated case. She later told a neighbor she was being paid for her testimony. Under oath in her deposition, she lied about her arrest history. A third witness, Glenn Roberts, testified that Williams had sold him Dr. Pickus's laptop computer. Police searched a Buick LeSabre that Asaro told them Williams had driven on the day of the murder. In the trunk, they found Gayle's ruler and calculator. Williams' defense would later produce multiple witnesses, including Asaro's own mother, who testified that the car was inoperable on August 11, 1998. Marcellus Williams was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and robbery. The crime lab had already returned results on the butcher knife before the trial began. Those results and what was later done to that evidence are the factual core of every legal proceeding that followed for the next 26 years. The trial of Marcellus Williams opened in St. Louis County Circuit Court in August 2001. The trial ran 14 days. Before a single witness took the stand, the defense raised a Batson challenge and objection under Batson v. Kentucky, 476 U.S. 79, 1986, the Supreme Court ruling that prohibits removing jurors on the basis of race. The prosecution had struck 6 of the 7 qualified black candidates from the jury panel. The seated jury consisted of 11 white jurors and 1 black juror. The Batson challenge was denied. The trial proceeded. The decision to deny that Batson challenge would come back into the record more than 2 decades later, when the prosecutor who made those strikes took the stand himself and said, under oath, exactly why he struck one of those jurors. The prosecution's case rested on 3 pillars: the testimony of Henry Cole, the testimony of Laura Asaro, and the physical items found in Williams' vehicle. Cole testified that Williams had confessed to the murder while they shared a cell. On cross-examination, defense counsel established that Cole had initially refused to cooperate until offered $5,000. Defense counsel also established that the details Cole provided tracked closely with newspaper reports published before he came forward, information already in the public domain. Cole's family had described him to investigators as someone known for dishonesty. Asaro testified that Williams admitted the crime to her and that she had seen Gayle's identification card in the trunk of his car. The defense produced evidence that the ID was found inside Gayle's home, not in the car. Asaro had told a neighbor she was receiving money for her testimony. The defense established her warrants had been cleared in exchange for cooperation. Cole and Asaro's accounts contradicted each other on key details and did not match the physical crime scene evidence. Asaro testified Williams had scratch marks on him. No foreign DNA was found under Gayle's fingernails. No fingerprints linked Williams to the scene. No blood transfer. No fiber evidence. The DNA recovered from the butcher knife handle. A male profile was not matched to Williams at trial. The prosecution did not lead with it. The jury received no definitive explanation of whose DNA was on the weapon used to kill Felicia Gayle 43 times. The jury began deliberations. They had heard 2 paid informants with conflicting stories, no forensic link to the defendant, and an unexplained DNA profile on the murder weapon. The verdict was not predetermined. The jury deliberated for under 2 hours on the question of guilt, guilty, first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, 2 counts of armed criminal action, robbery. The penalty phase began. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. The sentence, death. The St. Louis County Circuit Court entered judgment on August 27, 2001. Williams was 32 years old. The trial record under Docket SC 83934 in the Missouri Supreme Court, and then to 4 more rounds of federal proceedings. The next part of this file is what the jury never heard and what a federal judge in 2010 ruled they should have. Over 23 years, defense attorneys filed exactly 16 separate appeals across the state and federal court systems. In June 2003, the United States Supreme Court declined to hear his direct appeal. No comment or dissent was recorded. The conviction and the death sentence stood final. Marcellus Williams went back to his cell. Felicia Gayle had been dead for 5 years, and the jury that convicted him had deliberated for under 2 hours. He sat on Missouri's death row while nothing moved for 3 years. The informant's testimony and the unexplained DNA on the knife handle remained in the record. In 2006, Williams' attorneys shifted the battle to the federal courts, filing a habeas corpus petition raising 12 separate claims. The federal court denied 11 claims. On the final issue, the failure of his defense team to present mitigating evidence during sentencing, federal judge Stephen Limbaugh ruled for Williams. The judge's findings listed specific trial errors. Williams' trial attorneys failed to investigate his childhood, missing documented records of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and a family environment that normalized criminal behavior. Judge Limbaugh ruled the jury's unanimous verdict for death would have been different if they had heard these facts. He vacated the death sentence and ordered a new sentencing hearing. In 2010, a federal court order wiped away the death sentence. The penalty appeared to be gone. The state appealed to the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-judge panel reviewed the case. In a 2-to-1 decision, the majority reversed the lower court and reinstated the death penalty. Their reasoning cited defense strategy. They argued that introducing evidence of childhood trauma would contradict the trial defense's portrait of Williams as an innocent family man. The court ruled the defense could not claim an alternative strategy would have worked better after the verdict. The dissenting opinion stated the majority showed unreasonable deference to a flawed defense investigation. The dissent changed nothing. The death sentence returned, and a new execution date was set. By this point, Williams had already survived years of appeals and a federal ruling that briefly erased his death sentence. Most death row cases end long before reaching this stage, but the evidence that would place this case under national scrutiny had not yet been tested. The DNA results were still coming. Then, in 2015, the Midwest Innocence Project secured updated DNA testing on the butcher knife. An unknown male DNA profile was present on the handle, and Marcellus Williams was excluded. This was scientific proof that another individual's hands held the murder weapon. Citing these findings, the Missouri Supreme Court issued a stay of execution in January 2015. By August 2017, a second execution date approached. Williams received his last meal before Republican Governor Eric Greitens granted another stay, appointing a special board of inquiry to review the DNA evidence. Governor Greitens resigned 1 year later amid an unrelated scandal. The board remained in legal existence, failing to issue a final report for 5 years while Williams waited on death row. In June 2023, Governor Mike Parson dissolved the board by executive order, lifting the stay and directing the courts to bring the case to finality. While legal proceedings continued, the central fact of the case remained unchanged. Felicia Gayle had been stabbed 43 times inside her own home, and her family had spent nearly 25 years watching the courts struggle to reach a final outcome. The timeline resumed. St. Louis County prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell reviewed the DNA evidence and determined the original conviction was unreliable. Working with the defense and the victim's family, Bell's office negotiated an forward plea. Under this agreement, Williams maintained his innocence but accepted a sentence of life without parole. The local circuit judge signed the deal. The prosecution, the defense, the victim's family, and the local judge reached total agreement. The Missouri Supreme Court intervened to block it. At the request of the state attorney general, the High Court threw out the plea deal, forcing the case forward to an evidentiary hearing. In August 2024, every party directly touched by the crime agreed the death sentence should be dropped. The state's highest court overrode them all. The evidentiary hearing took place on August 28, 2024, 23 days before the execution date. Keith Larner, the original prosecutor from the 2001 trial, took the stand. Under oath, he acknowledged striking a black prospective juror during jury selection because he felt the man and Williams looked like brothers. This statement confirmed a Batson violation, the exact constitutional error the state denied for 23 years. Subsequent disclosures revealed that bloody fingerprints documented at the original crime scene were destroyed without being compared to Williams or any other suspect. Investigators also established that the original prosecutor repeatedly handled the butcher knife without gloves after it left the crime lab. The unknown male DNA profile that excluded Williams was contaminated. The chain of custody was broken, rendering the physical evidence legally useless. The hearing convened to review Innocence claims instead revealed that the critical evidence required to do so was compromised or destroyed by the state. On September 12, the circuit court ruled the conviction would stand. On September 23, Governor Parson denied executive clemency. On the afternoon of September 24, 2024, two separate emergency applications arrived at the United States Supreme Court. One from the defense and one from the county prosecutor, who filed to halt the execution his own office secured 23 years prior. The conservative majority of the Supreme Court denied both stays, with 3 justices nodding they would have halted the execution. Every door closed. The contaminated knife, the destroyed fingerprints, the admission of racial bias, and the pleas of the victim's family did not stop the execution. Through every appeal, stay, and courtroom battle, the victim's family remained tied to a case that had never truly ended. Somewhere in University City, Dr. Daniel Picayune had lived through 26 years of hearings, stays, reversals, and agreements. The execution remained scheduled. September 24, 2024. Eastern Reception, Diagnostic and Correctional Center, Bonne Terre, Missouri. Williams' last meal was served at 10:53. It consisted of chicken wings and tater tots. That information was confirmed by Missouri Department of Corrections Communications Director Karen Podgman. His last visit was with Imam Jalih Qasim from 11:01 a.m. to 12:32. Williams had converted to Islam during his time in prison and had legally changed his name to Marcellus Khaliifah Williams. Imam Qasim remained with Williams through the execution. Witnesses present in the execution chamber: Williams' son, 2 of his attorneys from the Midwest Innocence Project, and Imam Qasim. No representatives of Felicia Gayle's family attended. Podgman confirmed the family's absence. Approximately 100 demonstrators gathered outside the prison on the grounds, protesting the execution. Williams prepared a written final statement. It read, "All praise be to Allah in every situation." He did not mention Felicia Gayle. He did not name an alternative suspect. Those were the last words he chose to leave. At 6:01 p.m. Central Time, the lethal injection of pentobarbital was administered. At 6:10 p.m. Central Time, Marcellus Khaliifah Williams was pronounced dead. He was 55 years old. He was Missouri's 3rd execution of 2024, following Brian Dorsey in March and David Hosier in June. Felicia Gayle was murdered on August 11, 1998. Marcellus Williams was executed 26 years, 1 month, and 13 days later. The DNA profile recovered from the handle of the butcher knife has never been matched to a known individual. The bloody fingerprints documented at the crime scene were destroyed before they were ever compared against any suspect. The identity of the person whose DNA was on the weapon that killed Felicia Gayle 43 times remains unknown. As of the date of this recording, this case produced 6 separate dockets across 3 court systems. The original trial prosecutor admitted under oath to striking a black juror because of race. His office had denied this exact constitutional violation for 23 years. Furthermore, the state contaminated the primary physical evidence before formal testing could occur. Finally, the state legal apparatus intervened to block a plea deal supported by all parties. One question for the comment section below. The state Supreme Court overrode a signed agreement between the prosecution, defense, and the victim's family. The court ruled the arrangement impermissible under state law. 1 week later, the original prosecutor admitted to intentional racial bias during jury selection. Do you believe the court was right to prioritize procedural finality over emerging constitutional violations? Put your answer below. Case closed. This has been the execution docket.